Hola Familia, and welcome to another episode of Fire and Butterflies, where authenticity meets vulnerability, where courage meets love, and where fire meets butterflies. And my name is Comadre Cristal, and I am your host of this amazing podcast. And today I would like to welcome you, my amazing guest, Melissa. Melissa is a host of Mind Your Own Karma, the Adoption Chronicles podcast. She is also a certified somatic mindful guided imagery practitioner. She is also a published author in the groundbreaking book Adoption and Suicidality and has a featured article with online entrepreneur publication Canvas Rebel. Melissa has a deep conviction that life's obstacles are stepping stones to discovering one's true purpose, and she has seen this repeatedly through her advocacy work for and with adoptees. Melissa offers hope to those wrestling with identity, stress, anxiety, and trauma by aiding them on a journey of self discovery and the importance of coming home to themselves with somatic, mindful, guided imagery. She believes everyone has what she calls a healing combination, and somatic work, which focuses on the mind body connection, is the missing key in many of those searching for healing. By addressing trauma and emotional pain stored in the body, Melissa helps others uncover the root cause of their struggles, fostering transformative and lasting change in her private practice, Somatic Healing Journeys. Ah, I'm so excited. So, welcome, Melissa. Please,
Thank
introduce yourself
you.
as well.
Yes, I'm Melissa Brunetti. I actually am also a sonographer, and I've done that for 30, almost 34 years now. And it just kind of became something I wasn't enjoying. Healthcare's changed quite a bit. And so I wanted to transition into something, didn't know what. And the podcast kind of evolved from that. The Somatic Mindful Guided Imagery evolved from that. And doors just kept opening. And now I'm kind of starting a whole new life at 56.
Oh, how amazing. How amazing. And, for the listeners, I do want to share a little bit of what really brought me into to Melissa's what she brought into my awareness is the fact of your podcast of the Adoption Chronicles. Like, as many of my listeners know, I'm in the process with my kids and trying to figure all the legalities of fostering, adoption, legal guardianship. So I was like, oh, what a perfect person to have on my podcast, especially because you've taken your pain of this and transformed your life with it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your rock bottom. What was it that really got you to a place of saying, I need to do something different? Change my life, as you said, like I just need to turn my life around. So let's start from there and then go on. I want to hear your story.
So I do a lot of work with adoptees. I'm an adoptee, and I do a lot of work with birth mothers and some with adoptive parents as well. And I just kind of I'm all about education about adoption because it's just not out there. And I just want the listeners to be curious today and just kind of think about some of the things that I might say because adoption has kind of this Disneyland narrative that really is not what happens in a lot of cases. Not all cases, but in many cases. So my rock bottom started the day I was born. I lost my birth mother. I lost my security. And a lot of people don't realize that they think adoption starts the day that you were placed in a new family. Adoption starts with loss. It starts on a birthday that is not celebrated. It is heartbreaking for a mother and a family and a baby. We are not blank slates. That trauma gets stored in our bodies and we don't realize that. And we're told that we should be thankful and lucky that we have great parents and, we're taken from such a horrible situation, whatever the case may be, which a lot of times is a story that isn't true that's told to adoptive parents and then passed to us. And as that adoptee on that day that we're born, we get put into what I like to call the Witness Protection Program.
I never heard
Our
it as
name,
that.
yeah, our names are changed, our parents are changed, our heritage is changed, and even sometimes our birthday is changed. And I have talked to people that have celebrated a birthday for 50 years only to find out that that was not their original birthday. And how would you feel if that was you? That you were told a bunch of lies and not really afforded your identity, your heritage, your medical history. Just kind of a funny thing that happened to me that people don't really think about adoptees if you're not an adoptee. I have dated my boyfriend for almost 14 years, and a few years ago, one of my friends said, "Have you ever thought like you look alike?" And immediately I'm like panicking. I'm like, I never thought about it. What if I'm related to him?
Oh
I don't
my.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it's just things like that that people don't think about, that adoptees have to think about. And like I said, the medical history part, all of that stuff. So yeah, my rock bottom was the day I was born, and I immediately became an actor in my own life at that point because there's usually two kinds of adoptees. One is very compliant because they're afraid that they're going to lose this family. So you do toe the line, you do everything you're supposed to do. Then there's the other side where there's a lot of defiance and a lot of problems because that adoptee knows the abandonment's coming and they would rather have a reason for it that they're perpetuating than to have them just be abandoned for who they were. So they act out
Oh
and kind
my.
of try and make that happen. But I was the compliant adoptee. So I always kind of say that I practiced my lines and saw what got the best applause. And I just would keep doing that, never consulting myself about what I wanted. Um, and so that kind of went through my entire life and until I was probably 40 when was another rock bottom because playing that part actually made me physically sick to a point where they couldn't tell what was wrong with me. I just felt like I was dying, literally dying from the inside out. And of course, the doctors gave me a bunch of pills to try to cover up the symptoms I was feeling because they couldn't find anything. Excuse me. So that was another rock bottom, and that's kind of when I started to come back to myself.
Wow. So, wow. Wow. I mean, I just first want to take a moment and acknowledge all of the pain that not just you as an adoptee, but all like even for my listeners out there, all of the pain, like let's acknowledge it and see that like you're
And that's the part that's missing
yeah,
because a lot of
yeah,
times when you try to talk to people about that, it's very uncomfortable. And they're like, but you have great parents.
yeah, no,
That's the answer always, and it's
yeah,
like that just erases everything,
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
it
Exactly.
doesn't. It
So,
doesn't
oh,
erase. Yeah.
so let me, yeah, let me just acknowledge this for you and just say how fucking amazing you are. I mean, just I don't know if anyone tells you this often enough, but let me be one to tell you that because like everything you were sharing, like I thought like I suffer from people pleasing. Like I was also very a compliant child, like always wanting to keep everyone happy. But because of the domestic violence and the alcoholism in my household, my parents were biologically mine, but I could only imagine like the added layer of it not like I don't like I can't. And so Melissa, you're fucking amazing because yeah, you just opened up my eyes to so many things I never really thought about, even with my own kids. Like I as you were saying, like the rebel and the compliant, I'm like, holy shit. My kids, I think my oldest, Elle, that's what I name my oldest on my podcast, Elle. I think they are my compliant child, and I think that Princess, my little one, she is my rebel.
Mm.
As you were saying, I'm like, oh, yeah. So, so thank you for also giving me this knowledge for myself. So,
Yeah.
So thank you. Okay, so you're 40. You get to this place. You're sick. You're sick and tired of being sick and
I
tired
am.
because it's like you're literally dying from the inside
Yes.
out. So what happened? Like what was it that got you out of this? Because let me tell you right now, for viewers for listeners who are viewing this, you get to see Melissa. You see how she is. But for me, like for others who are listening, Melissa looks great. She looks good. Like I'm like, dang, I want to age how whatever Melissa's taking, I want to take it. How did you do this? Because I would have never imagined that you were sick, you were dying at one point in your life. So please tell us.
Yeah, the turning point was I didn't want to die. Literally, being in the medical field, I've seen over and over again my patients coming for tests. And it's frustrating for them because they're spending time and money on tests and it's showing nothing. And that always kind of bothered me because I'm in this to help people. How many times have I done ultrasound and I can't find anything? What is this pain they're having? I don't see anything. And I feel bad for them. And then when I turned 40, I became one of those patients. So I understood it at a whole different level. And I just was like, I have to find out what this is. Like, what is happening? And I had this vision one day of me floating just in like a little floaty out in the ocean. And I'm, laying back and I'm asleep. Sun's on me and everything's great. And I'm floating along. Well, all of a sudden I look up and I can barely see the shore. I have like drifted so far away and I panicked and I realized that that shore was my authentic self. And if I didn't start swimming back right now, I mean, now, this second, I was going to go out too far and I was going to die. One way or another, I was going to die because I had suicidal ideation to the point where when I was alone at home, I was pacing my floors, really running from myself and the urge to do something to myself at that moment. So, and that just was not my personality at all. I never had anxiety. I never, had panic attacks. I had all of that and some. So it was really just realizing that if I didn't start right now, that this was it. I was going to die. So, not recommended, but I stopped all my medications cold turkey. You're not supposed to do that. But I was just sick and tired of feeling like crap. And so I stopped all of that. And then I started looking at myself, and I swear to God, I didn't even know what my favorite color was. I
Hmm.
was living so much by what everyone expected of me. Not, and I don't blame them because I had a choice and I chose to do that. Um, so I was living by everybody else's rules. I was also very much into religion at that time, Christianity, and I was allowing them to dictate how I raised my kids, how I lived my life, how I presented myself, everything, every aspect. Yeah, I was again an actor in my own life, award-winning actor. I should have got an Oscar. Um, and that was literally what was making me sick and feeling like I was dying, like a wilting flower, really. So I just started walking towards myself, whatever that felt, whatever that meant. I didn't know what that meant. Started with my favorite color. What foods do I like? Just simple things like that. And then huge life changes started happening. I ended up getting a divorce. And, I just realized as soon as I started taking this path back to home to me, that the doors just kept opening. Another door kept opening, another door kept opening. So that's and that was journey was, 10 years of that. And then, for some weird reason, I got the itch to start a podcast. Never had even listened to a podcast in my entire life. Had no idea what I was going to talk about, but this voice, this feeling inside of me, I can't explain it. It was like, you need to do this. You need to do this. So I did. I took a 12-week course and started a podcast in December of 21. And it wasn't about adoption. It was about living your best life and being authentic and all the things that I had done the last 10 years, I thought I have all this knowledge I'm going to give to people. Well, about 26 episodes in, I was like kind of running out of stuff to say at that point. And I was like, what am I going to do now? And I got into the adoptee community and it just blew my mind because I had a great adoption and I drank the Kool-Aid of, that covered everything. And so I started what we call it the adoption fog. You come out of the adoption fog. I started coming out of the fog really quick. And it's funny because I was like, we're talking about stuff we're not supposed to be talking about. You can't say that. You're not supposed to say those things. I know. And so, but yeah, it was super helpful. And at that point I pivoted my podcast totally, just pivoted it to adoption. And I've been doing that for, ever since then. So over 2 years now. Yeah.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is
And then
so
that led me into the somatic stuff because I had people telling me I have all this body pain and I don't know where is this coming from? I've had this pain since 4 years old. These adoptees are telling me this. And I'm like, what is this? And then I learned about somatics and I was like, oh my God, that's the missing key right there. That's the missing piece to all of this. And so then I dove into that and I'm transitioning from ultrasound, still doing my podcast, and transitioning into somatic mindful guided imagery.
that's so cool. Especially with y- you know, so as a lot again, this is a spiritual podcast, so it's like when you are divinely guided, when you have this voice, this calling, you don't know, like it's like it's hard to explain. It's hard to put words into it. But when you follow it, you said it, doors start opening up,
Yes. Yeah.
opportunities start coming. Like I'm a
Mhm.
testimony to that for myself too. So I hear you. And I'm glad that you followed this. And, you know, thank goodness that you had that vision of being in that raft and seeing the shore slowly getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Um, which, it's interesting that you said that because as you say that, that's what you're doing, with the somatic imagery. So tell us, like, is that what it is? Like, I'm curious. So when I came across your page, I was like, what is somatic imagery? Like, what? This sounds really cool because I also agree with you that trauma is stored in our body.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All the traumas that we experience stores in our body. And the only way to release it is by working through that. So please share about the your what it is that you do as a
Yeah.
somatic mindful guided imagery practitioner.
Well, trauma comes in many different forms, and if you believe in past lives, that trauma can also still be stored in your body. Generational trauma is stored in your body. They're
Mhm.
saying up that they can trace up to 4 generations. I'm sure it's even more than that. So there's all kinds of trauma that we carry, and it's really in our cells. When a baby chick, how does a baby chick know how to peck its way out of an egg? Because it's genetically knows that from its generations, before. So we carry that with us, and it does get stored in our bodies, and it can come out as pain. If it goes long enough, it can be mental illness, all kinds of mental illnesses, even schizophrenia, all kinds of things, cancer. I think that was the road I was heading towards. And so this is a little bit different because there's somatic therapy, and what I do also involves hypnosis, guided imagery, and meditation, as well as somatic work. So it kind of combines all the best things about those modalities and rolls it up into one. And we do use a lot of somatics and we feel into the body and, follow the pain. What is it connected to? Let's find the root of it. The problem is a lot of therapies, and talk therapy is great. I have a talk therapist. I love her. She has a place. She's part of my healing combination. But I feel like it can kind of dig up some things, but it doesn't get to the root of it. So it's like cutting the weed off at the stalk, but the roots are still there. That's how I kind of talk about it and think about that. But the somatic part actually gets to the root of it and just gets rid of it. It's pretty amazing. I have worked through some crazy things I know that I would never have even got to if I wouldn't have done it somatically, if I would have just used talk therapy. And I get a lot of patients, clients that have done EMDR first, and they've kind of exhausted that to the point that they're kind of stuck. And then they come and do some somatic work. And then that really kind of gets the rest of that out. So, yeah, it's a unique modality. There's only probably now, I think another graduating class just came out. So, probably 30 of us at the most that are certified. Um, and I love it because it's very personalized. We go in depth as to what you want to create, what you want to diminish, whether it's an anxiety, trauma, um, and even something that you want to grow, your business, those things. We can do that too. So we really pinpoint what it is that you want to create in our co-creation with the work. And then we dive in, and your subconscious mind really knows what needs to happen to make those things come to fruition. And we just follow it. And that's why it's so effective, because it's very personalized. And the sessions are 2 hours long instead of like the traditional hour. Because I always felt sometimes in my therapy sessions, like I'm just getting to this point where, and then the hour's up and it's like, oh, I gotta wait till next time. So I leave no stone unturned in those 2 hours. I will take every minute of those 2 hours if you're willing to journey with that with me. So I want to get as much done for people as possible. So it's quick, efficient, easy, and it's gentle. A lot of times you don't have to relive something to fix it. You don't. So that's what I love about this too. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And it's a co-creation, which I love too. I'm not fixing you. I'm just helping you because you really can fix yourself. You can heal yourself. And that's what traditional medicine has really messed with our brains and got us to think that we can't do that anymore. And that I'm going to give you this pill and you'll feel better tomorrow. I'm not saying that what I do is going to do that, but what I'm saying is this long-term suffering that you've been feeling can end with, maybe a short-term pain, because healing process, it can be painful. It really can. But you're eliminating that long-term suffering that you've been feeling for how long? So that's what I love about what I do now.
No, absolutely. I love that. And it's the instant gratification. I myself personally was a sucker for that. Like the
Well,
instant
it's so
gratification of
easy,
like,
right?
yeah, like
You
I
want
just
that.
give
I
me
just
the
want to feel
pill.
better now. I want to feel better.
Yes, exactly. Like just give me the pill now. Give me like I just want to feel better now. I'm done. I'm done
Yeah.
being sad. I'm done being angry. I'm done. I'm done. But you're right. It's growing pains. We need children have growing pains in their bones when they're growing, when they're getting taller. So our soul's going to have growing pains too because we're
Yeah.
healing. Um and so that's how I see it now. So now it's like, no, let me feel what I got to feel.
Hmm.
Um that is so cool of using all of these amazing modalities because I have tapped into each one of them. I too have my own circle of healing support. So I
Yeah.
also have a talk therapist. I also have a life coach. I also have a business coach. Like I have a little bit of
Hmm.
everything because we need it. Like,
Yeah.
you get to make it your own. And I love that with what you're doing, you're adding a little bit of everything, infusing it. And on top of that, you are also really a testimony yourself because this helped you a lot. So because I mean, you're sharing that you were dying. You're like, I need something different. And now you're thriving. I this is what I like to tell a lot of my listeners. You go from surviving to thriving.
Yeah.
And you're thriving now. And that is so amazing that this has helped you in multiple ways. And so tell us a little bit more about how it's changed and like the differences you have seen from your previous life to your life today.
Yeah. Again, when I found somatic mindful guided imagery, I had a friend tell me about it. She had experienced it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I dove in, and my teacher, she's the one that developed somatic mindful guided imagery, and she's been practicing for over 20 years. And she's like, I need to start teaching people this because I'm getting older, and this is going to die and this is great. So yeah, so she started teaching people. So I got on her website. I looked at every video, every word she said. I mean, I didn't, there's not one thing I didn't look at on there. And again, I had never experienced somatic mindful guided imagery. Again, that voice was like, you need to do this, you need to do like it was just this knowing. That's how I can only say it's a knowing, like you're gonna be in this class, you're gonna take this class. Okay, I don't know how this is gonna happen. But sure enough, I was in the class. Never, ever, ever had a session. Um, so then we, kind of traded in class and learned on each other how to do it and stuff. So we always have to kind of claim what our desire is to get out of our sessions. And I always had the caveat like, I want to work on my adoption trauma. I want to work on my adoption trauma. So I did a ton of work on that. Where one journey I was in back in the womb and I could hear conversations that my birth mother had with my birth father, and her mother passed away when she was 6 months pregnant with me. I didn't think about how that affected her and then affected me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt all of those hormones and cortisol and the stress hormones, and I felt all of that going through me,
Yeah.
and everything she was going through. And I never thought about that. I had gained because I have met my birth mother. We had a great relationship for probably 7, 8 years. And then she rejected me. We call that a second rejection in adoptee land. I got a second rejection from her. So I had a lot of pain from that second rejection because it was very personal at that point. I was like, what's wrong with me? So I could understand that, when she gave me up as a baby, because the circumstances, she really could not afford to keep me. She tried. But the second one, I was just like, that was very personal. Like, you don't like me for some reason. Never thinking that she was operating from her trauma and everything that happened those 9 months. And then at the end of that, having to give me up. Um, so she's very traumatized and working from whatever, feelings and ways that shaped her. And having that experience really just a light bulb went on. And I had so much compassion for her at that point, understanding, and then healing for me because I wasn't taking it personal anymore. It's not about me. It was never about me. Never. Even as a baby, it never was about me. And I always thought it was. So that was huge. One session done. I feel like no animosity, no, I'm not angry. All I have is compassion. I hope that someday that maybe we can have some kind of a relationship, whether it's emails or whatever. But if it doesn't, I totally understand. I totally get it. So that's what that did for me. Just one example, what it did for me.
Oh my goodness. I I'm at loss for words, and that's very uncommon for me.
I was gonna say, what?
Um, wow. Wow. A lot of people, especially for people who haven't done any somatic work or any like it's real. I mean, I thank you for sharing that experience, because your experience actually is very similar to my experience when I did a somatic breath work not too
Mm.
long ago, earlier this year. And my intention was I need to get rid of my people pleasing tendencies. Like, why am I so codependent? Why am I so stuck in being Captain Save-A-Ho? That's what I like to call it. uh, I like why? And so I took the somatic breath work, and I too was in the womb. And I remember being in
Mm.
the womb, and I'm like, holy shit, am I really like what's
Isn't
happening?
that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's funny. I haven't shared this experience with my listeners. So listeners, you get to hear this. When I was in the womb of my mother, and my mom and my dad were arguing because my dad was an alcoholic and abusive, and I remember hearing the fight. I remember hearing the the anger, the yelling, the screaming, and I I'm assuming at that point I was assuming that there was physical violence because my I just felt being held. Like I felt like my
Mm,
mom was just like grabbing her stomach, protecting me. And in that moment, all I could feel was I need to protect my mom. Like I need
hmm.
to like she's trying to protect me. I need to protect her. I need to be good for her. Like I don't know, like it just all this came up. Well, I was still when I came out of that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this stems a lot from my childhood." Um, so I went to my mom. I'm like, "Hey, I just had this experience. Is this like did this happen?" And she was like, "Yes, and that happened." And
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" So I say all of that because you're right. A lot of our again, back to trauma stored in our body. It can't start from the
Yeah.
moment we are in utero, from the moment we are
Hmm.
a fetus, from the moment from the moment of creation. I mean, there's so many layers to trauma. It's not, a lot of people, it's not just one thing that happens. It's layers
Yeah.
upon layers.
Yeah. And
So,
that's one thing too about the somatic part. It sounds so woo-woo. We're talking about, oh yeah, we felt like we were back in the womb. People are like, what
yeah,
the heck, But and that was really hard for me, I have to say, for at first, because I am very left-brained. I'm very medical science, show me
same.
and so that was kind of hard for me. But once I realized, because I'm like, oh my God, what is this, cricket with a playing a violin over here, that's coming into my awareness right now. That's stupid. I don't even want to say it. But I learned that everything that comes up in my journey is there to show me or tell me something, no matter what it is, no matter how much it does not make sense. And so I learned that the more I shared with my guide everything that I was feeling, seeing, tasting, in my inner world, um, it just made the session so much richer and I got so much more out of it. So the more you can just roll with it, even if it doesn't totally make sense, it doesn't, in the outer world, it does make sense in the inner world. So, and that's where all the healing happens, is in that inner world. And then that affects the outer world. So I know it sounds woo-woo, but if you can just trust the process, I'm telling you, it's amazing.
It is. It is. It's magical, It's
Yeah.
I've embraced it at this point. This is why it's like, it's all spirituality, For me, it's beyond woo-woo. It's something bigger than us.
Hmm.
It, you just have to embrace it. And yes, it's scary. Yes, there's a lot of unknown, but it really is this part of us that we get to start healing. Um, so I love that. And I love that that's what you're providing. And I love that that's what you one are providing to the community. And that you're providing for people, especially adoptees. Like, so for listeners who are interested and are like, oh my gosh, Melissa sounds great. Like I would love to work with her. Do they have to be an adoptees or there's like,
No, no.
okay,
Yeah, no, they don't have to be an adoptee. I just am an adoptee informed practitioner. Because of a lot of adoptees want to work with someone who's been adopted because they don't get the same understanding they feel from other therapists. So I love working with adoptees because I've been there and I just know how this work can help them. And a lot of adoptees don't feel like they can heal from this wound. And I just want them to know that, yes, you can. It's all healable. It is all healable. I had a client who had body dysmorphia. She was totally fit, like, slim, but she thought she felt fat. And she felt that anytime anybody looked at her, they were looking at her because she was fat. I mean, she didn't even like to put her arms to her sides and feel her arms touching her sides. Like she just felt like, oh my God, I feel the fat. And I was thinking, how is she going to feel into her body with this? Like, how is this somatic part going to work with her? She can't. And In one session, she had a total breakthrough where she ended up going to a parade or some kind of festival, like the next day. And she was like, I was able to walk around and not be wondering who was looking at me,
Wow.
and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It is all healable. I mean, my teacher always said that, but I was like,
I know,
And I
same.
get clients where I'm like, how is this going to work? And it's so cool to watch how it does work because your subconscious knows you can heal yourself. There
Yes.
is a way to heal yourself and it will figure it out. So
Mhm.
that's what's so cool.
No, I love that. And it's that reminder. One of my favorite slogans that I've picked up on my journey is it works when you work it, so work it because you're worth it.
Yeah.
And familia, all of you are worth it. You're all worth
Yes.
it.
Mm.
We forget our worth. We forget our value. And that's the healing that needs to happen to find that worthiness and find that value. Because I mean, going into, if you're saying a lot of your rock bottom started the moment you were adopted or the moment you were born, it's that created a mother wound, that created
Hmm.
a father wound. And as a lot of my listeners know, I always say this, our mother wound makes us question who we are, and our father wound makes us question our value. And
Mm.
so we like those wounds are real, and healing them really does change our lives. And I mean, Melissa, like I it sounds like you are doing everything that you want to do and that you're in a better place and you're happier with this and you're helping other people like like that example of your client. Like, what a beautiful experience to be able to just love yourself and go out in public and not worry about people looking at you or getting caught up in the image that we we portray, that we think we're portraying.
Yeah. I love
So
showing people
yeah.
that they can heal themselves. Once you learn some of these techniques, you can go home and do it yourself. You don't need me. I love that. And, if you get stuck, then come back. But um, we forget that. And we also forget that we have a purpose in this life. Every single one of us has a purpose. Are you living your purpose? If you're not happy, you're not living your purpose. So
Hmm.
we're all in this together. We're all this huge puzzle piece that fits together. But if you're not doing what you were born to do, what you're supposed to do in this life, you're missing out because you're unhappy, not fulfilling what you're supposed to be doing. And we're all missing out because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, whatever
Yes.
that is. So we're all waiting for you to get going and figure it out so we can
Oh,
enjoy your gifts that you're supposed to bring to us. So get off your couch and
yes.
let's go.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, I I I love your energy and I love the fact that I mean everything you're speaking is gold. Everything you're speaking is truth. It's like, we could I'm going to call it for what it is. We can play the martyr for as long as we have to, but it's not serving us. Playing the
Yeah.
martyr, playing the victim, I think it doesn't serve us, familia. So
Hmm.
sometimes we have to step out into the unknown, step out of our comfort zones, step out of that couch and
Yeah.
just do the work. And if it comes to your awareness, take it. It's scary, it's hard. I mean, I will testify to that for my own personal life. Uh, Following my life's purpose is not as easy as, it's like, oh, just follow it. It's like, no, there's, oh, it takes time to get to that point, but it's possible. And it's possible by healing because the more we heal those wounds or the more we heal those hurt parts of us, the more we get to live authentically and be more in alignment with our purpose. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what it sounds like you're doing. And you're helping other people do that. Oh, Melissa, I love that. I love that you're helping so many more people because that's all we need to do. It's just live our purpose. And our purpose is to allow other people to find their purpose.
Yeah. And let's validate just for a second when we're in survival mode
Hmm.
and we have to morph into something else that we're not to survive. We've all probably had to do that at some time or another. It could have been something as simple as something that happened on the playground, or it could be something huge that happened to you. It doesn't matter. That's still trauma. And so though we sometimes we have to hide away parts of us to protect ourselves. And that's okay. We're trying to survive in that moment. However, we have to. The problem is when we start living that loop and keep living it, and then eventually we need that part back because it is a part of us. And so it's a missing piece. And so we forget that that part needs to come back and be validated and be healed and bring it back home to you. And so that's kind of what the work that I do does as well, is it finds those missing parts that are like screaming to get your attention. Um, and they just want to come home so that you can enjoy and feel more full and whole as well, bringing that piece back.
Yes. Come back home.
Yeah.
Come back home. And the home is inside of you. Mm,
Yes. Yes.
I love that.
Stop
Thank you.
searching for that everywhere else.
Yes,
It's in you. Everything's in you. You can,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Mm. So, for listeners who are interested, I do have all of Melissa's social media information if you want to go follow her or even for her website. Can you tell a little bit of the listeners if they do want to book a session with you or want to start working with you? What would the process look like?
So you can go to my website, somatichealingjourneys.com. There's a ton of information on there, as well as you can schedule a free consultation with me so that we can discuss exactly what your need is, your desire is, and discuss how what I do can help with that. And then we'll discuss, pricing and all that kind of stuff, packages and things like that. But I do like to do the consult so that I can kind of have that personal one-on-one and feel energy, because I want to see if we're gonna fit, together. And if I don't feel that, then I have somebody else that I can refer you to. If I feel like somebody else has, I have clients, I have other colleagues that will give me adoptee clients because they know that that's kind of what I specialize in. So if I feel like I have a client that would fit better with another practitioner, then, um, I have no problem because I want you to get the most out of it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. So before we end, I like to always end it with the chisme. The chisme is the gossip, but I like to call it like the gossip that's a good gossip. Like this is just any download, any message that you have right now from higher power, spirit, whatever it is that you feel like you're calling, like that little voice in your head. For listeners, any parting words that you want to share?
I just want everyone to know that a lot of us that are stuck or, you know, stuck in trauma, anxiety, whatever it is in life in general, and we're waiting for something to change, or we're waiting for someone to ride up on their white horse and save us. You are that person. You are the hero. The hero is already inside of you. So believe that and start searching, because as we were talking about, those doors will open. There is no doubt in my mind. If you're walking or trying to walk in the right direction, you will be shown the way. So don't wait. Like I waited. I wish I didn't. But at 56, it's never too late. It's never too late to do whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, whatever it is that's going to light you up and make you happy. And then you can give that gift to the world. I don't care if you're 80. I don't care if you're 90. I don't care. Start. Just start. Yeah, the
Mm.
hero is already inside of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your light. Thank you so much for sharing your magic. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and sharing your vulnerability and your authenticity, your courage, your love. Um, thank you, Melissa. You are such a bright source to so many people out there, and I am so grateful that our paths have crossed. I am so grateful that you have given me the honor to come to my podcast, so also thank you for that. I for Surprise for all of my listeners, I will also be on Melissa's podcast coming up in a few
Yes.
months, so I'll be sharing all of that because I will be sharing about my experience with adopting.
Yes.
But thank you, Melissa. Thank you for so much for being here today. Familia, I'll be sure to have all of Melissa's information in the description. Please reach out to her. Go give her a like. Give support. That's all we can do. Just give people support. Share. If you feel that there's someone in your life who might benefit from this, or you're like, I know an adoptee, or I myself was adopted. Maybe why not? Like the getting information does not mean you have to do any. Like, knowledge is
Yeah.
power. The more you
Yes.
know, the better decision you can make. You cannot
Yeah.
make a decision if you don't have the knowledge. So go get informed. If it's something that is calling your name, go check out her website. Um, yeah, this is all amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here today, Melissa.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. And I just want to thank your audience for being curious and allowing me to maybe give a different perspective and having an open mind to just think about it. Like you said, you don't have to change, the way you think or feel about adoption or any of these things, but just be curious about it and maybe just be a little more compassionate towards the adoptee community. So thanks. I'm
Absolutely.
just thanking your listeners for allowing me to tell my story.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, familia. Well, thank you all so much for being here today with me. With all of that, I am sending you all so much fire and butterflies. And as always, don't forget, love your now. Bye.